So in this video we are going to discuss hydrocarbons, its classifications, formation of single, double and triple covalent bonds, root word, suffix, saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons. So these are the topics which we are going to discuss today. Now before we begin, let's look at the structure of hydrogen and carbon bond. So this is how it looks, the actual image. These are molecular structures. Even you can look here. So these are carbons. It is forming a cyclic bond, which I have explained to you in the first video, Introduction to Organic Chemistry. So these green dots are actually a carbon, whites are your hydrogen, and these red colors are oxygens here. So you'll come to know when we start the functional groups. So this is how the organic compounds molecule look like. Now first we are going to look how do they form single, double and triple covalent bonds. So this is a single bond, and here we have double bond, and here we have triple bond. So I'm going to show you how they are formed. So let's continue how they are going to form a bond here. So we have already discussed catenation in my first video. Now look here. Now these electron will bond with these electron of this carbon. I have made 4 dots here, Lewis dot structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, tetravalency. Here also 1, 2, 3, 4. And now look at this arrangement. I have placed 2 electrons together in this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this carbon has 4, as well as this carbon has 4 dots here. So this I'll continue later. So they are going to form a bond here. So what type of bond do we call here? This is single covalent bond. The bond between carbon and carbon. Don't make a mistake of counting or numbering the hydrogen here, because hydrogen is going to bond here with this electron of carbon. So they actually, carbon and carbon, they are forming a single covalent bond. Now here 2 electrons are there of these carbon will form a bond with 2 electrons of this carbon. So what do we call this type of bond? We call it double bond. We call it double bond. Now here hydrogen will come and form a covalent bond here. So one hydrogen will come over here. Similarly, a hydrogen here you can add here, and you can add one more hydrogen here. So now this is your double bond. You can add hydrogen here, here, and here as well as here and here. Now we are going to look at triple bond. So I'm going to make carbon here, so easy way to remember. 4 dots are there. So 1, I'm going to place it, 2 and 3 electrons together. So 1 is remaining, so that's I'm going to make it here of this carbon, and 1 is remaining of this carbon. Now they will form triple covalent bond. So what will come here? Hydrogen. Later you'll come to know that even you can add functional groups like OH also. So this is the way how they form single, double and triple covalent bonds. Now we're going to discuss the root word. The root word means how many carbons are there. If there are only 1 carbon, then we call it the root word meth. If there are 2 carbons in the structure, eth. 3 carbons means prop, 4 carbons means bute, 5 pent, 6 hex, 7 hept, 8 oct. We use the term octet. Even in music we call it octave. Then we have 9 carbon known as non, then 10 carbons known as dec. So these are your word rules which you have to remember. Then we'll come to the suffix. So always remember, whenever there are single bond, there is a single bond between 2 carbon atoms, then always remember the suffix. Suffix means it comes after the prefix. So this is your suffix. So whenever there is single bond between 2 carbon atoms, we call it ane, ane. We use the term ane. Actually it is derived from the term alkane. So there is only single bond between 2 carbons, that's why we use the term ane. So whenever you find double bonds between 2 carbon atoms, it is alkene. So this is the suffix ene, ene. So whenever there are 3 carbon bonds between here, 3 covalent bonds, so we use the term alkyne. So we only derive the word yne, alkyne, yne, ine. Now we are going to look at the structure. So I'm going to make it here. We are going to look at the nomenclature for these. So these are the structures of hydrocarbons. We have discussed this. It's the open chained hydrocarbons. It's not cyclic, it's not in a circle. Okay. Now let's look here. So two carbons, actually there are 4 dots here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 dots. So it is forming a bond with this carbon. So we see, first of all, we see how many carbons are there. Let's number it, 1 and 2. So how many carbons are there? There are 2 carbon atoms. So what is the word root, or the root word for them? 2 carbons are there, so we are going to use the term eth. 2 carbons means eth. So that's what we are going to write here. So 2 carbons means eth. I'm doing it for the first one. So the first root word is our eth. E-T-H, eth. What is the reason? The reason is it has 2 carbons. So this is T, okay? Eth. So what type of bond do we see here? We see a single covalent bond between 2 carbon atoms. Whenever there is single covalent bond, what do we call? Let's look here. If there is single covalent bond, we call it ane. It's actually a alkane. So we're just going to add ane, ane. So we'll write here ane, ane. The reason is it has single covalent bond between 2 carbons. So what is the name of this compound? It is ethane. You got it? Now I'm going to show you for methane. So we are going to make methane. So first we'll make carbon with these 4 dots here. That is your tetravalency. It's easy to remember. Later you will come to know that you will just have to make a line here, alignment here, and add hydrogen. So hydrogen's valency is 1. So it's actually we make a dot here. So we bond these hydrogens electron and with this carbon's electron. So I'm going to do it here. And let's do the nomenclature. We use the term known as nomenclature. In Hindi it is namkaran. Now what is the name of this compound? Now how many carbons do you see here? Carbon is only 1. So if it is 1, so what is the word root? Our word root is meth. And what kind of bond do you see here? Single bond, so ane. So there's only 1 carbon here, so that's why we write meth. And there's a single covalent bond, that's why we write ane. So this is the way how it gets its name. Now how are you going to name this compound? Let's count number of carbons. 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 carbons here, and we have single covalent bond between the carbon atoms. Now if there are 3 carbon atoms, what is the word root we are going to use? 3 carbons means prop. It's prop. Single bond means ane. So the name will be 3 carbons means prop. So we are going to write here prop, and ane we are going to add here in because there is single bond here. Now how are you going to the nomenclature for this carbon, this organic compound? 2 electrons here of this carbon and 2 electrons of this carbon here. Total is 4, so it's forming a bond, double bond. So you can add here just a hydrogen. Just you add here hydrogen and hydrogen. Now you cannot add here hydrogen, it's wrong. If you write here hydrogen forming a line here, it's wrong because carbon's valency is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not 5, so you are not supposed to write here hydrogen. So add here 1 hydrogen with this dot and just join it. Now we are going to write the name of this compound. How many carbons are there? 2 carbons. So what is the word root? Our word root is eth because there are 2 carbons. Now what type of bond do you see here? Double bond. Now whenever it is double bond, what do we have to add? ene, ene is actually alkene. So we need to add here ene, ene. So this is your ethene. Similarly, you can do it for triple bond. This carbon. So I'm going to align these electrons in this way. It has a unique property known as catenation, remember. Due to that catenation, it forms this kind of arrangement. So I'm making 3 electrons here and 1 electron of this carbon here as well as here. Started to rain. Okay, now they are going to form a bond. So this electron will bond. Here we go. Here we go. Actually, it forms octet, isn't it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is actually forming a bond. Now these electrons are back in here. These electrons will bond with an electron of hydrogen. So add here hydrogen and hydrogen over here. Now we are going to write the name of this compound. So we see 2 carbon atoms. If there are 2 carbon atoms, what is the word root? The word root is eth. 2 carbons are there, so we are going to write eth. The word root is eth. So what type of bond are there? Triple bond. So whenever it is triple bond, we add y, ene, ene. So y, what is the name of the compound? It is ethyne or alkyne group. So this is the way how we have to do the nomenclature. Slowly you'll come to know further functional groups as well. Now we are going to discuss the classification of hydrocarbons. So organic compounds are made up of hydrogen and carbons together, as I've shown you in the structure. Carbon and hydrogen. More will be there, like OH, CHO, we'll come across to that. So this is the meaning of hydrocarbons. Hydrogen and carbon together make organic compounds. Now these hydrocarbons are of two types: open chain, also known as your aliphatic, and your cyclic, that is also known as your closed. So this we have discussed in the previous video, open chained and cyclic. Now open chained are of two types. One is saturated hydrocarbons and unsaturated hydrocarbons. Now saturated hydrocarbons means those hydrocarbons which have only single covalent bond. So carbon atoms are joined only by single covalent bond. So here you have to identify which one is your saturated. So this one is your saturated, first one. Look, it has only single covalent bond, so that's why it is known as your saturated hydrocarbon. So carbon atoms are joined only by single covalent bond. Those are known as your saturated hydrocarbons. So what do you understand by unsaturated? So unsaturated hydrocarbons are joined by double bond and triple bond. Double bond and triple bond. So the word root for them, the family, the parent is actually an alkyne. That's why we use the term yne here, and alkene and alkane. So saturated means alkenes. Okay, they are less reactive. The reason why they are less reactive is they do not have extra electrons in them to bond. I'm going to show you here. Look, all the electrons are formed single covalent bond, so they are less reactive. Whereas this double bond and triple bond, they are highly reactive. The reason is two more electrons are present here. So these bonds are going to break. The bond between them is not strong, it is weak. So they are highly reactive. Now here we are going to discuss cyclic or closed chain compounds. This is a cycle. Now what are here present? Carbon. So here carbon, 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 as well as here also carbon. Now how many electrons are there? The valency of carbon, it is 4. So 2 electrons have been bonded here. So we have 2 electrons remaining. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, so 2 electrons are remaining of this carbon. So I'm just going to write here directly H2. There are 2 hydrogens. So that's why I'm doing it directly. For example, you can write this formula as C2. 2 carbons are there. How many hydrogens are there? 2 hydrogen. H2. We can write this as a molecular formula. As well as for methane, how do you write methane? We write first carbon, then how many hydrogens? 4. So CH4, molecular formula. Here C2, how many hydrogens are there? 4 hydrogens. So we write here H4. So these are your molecular formulas. So similarly, instead of forming a bond and making 2 hydrogens, I'm just going to write here directly H2. Here also H2. So once you have completed, now we are going to write the nomenclature or the name of this compound. It is in cycle. It is not open. Open means here we have open chain compounds. Look, they are also here open chained compounds. They are not cyclic. The figure which I have made here is cyclic. Now we are going to write the name. So let's count how many carbons are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 carbons are there. If it's 6, so what is the word root? The word root is going to be hex. Remember, hex is the word root. Next step, we are going to write here hex, the word root, because there are 6 carbons. Now what type of bond do you see here? We only see single covalent bond. So whenever it is single covalent bond, what is it? ANE, N. So we are going to write here N. So we'll write here hexane. But it is in a cycle, is a closed chain compound. So we are going to add here cyclo, the word CYCLO, cyclo. So this is the way how do they get their names. Okay, thank you for watching my video. So in the next video, I'm going to explain you the functional group as well as the benzene ring.